Good morning. This is the paper I use for my case building. Today's motion is in post-conflict states like post-civil war, regime change, and colonialism. This house believes that history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than top-down historiography. Before I move on, there are two things we need to clear up first. The affirmative side had mentioned something about relatability. The affirmative said top-down is less relatable. They said that ordinary people don't experience the same thing as historical actors. They believe that ordinary people suffer more than historical actors, which is a misconception because relatability doesn't equal clarity. Let us imagine if every single group writes its own painful story, what happens? It could create fragmentation. Fragmentation here means something is broken into separate pieces that no longer connect well. This could cause more confusion because fragmentation here means different stories from different groups. And here, we have to remember that ordinary people is a group of people that also has many groups inside it. Imagine a classroom where every student brings their family's experience on one specific tragedy. Do we end up with one history or 50 different types of story? Right, we're going to end up in different type of history. Top-down historiography gives a framework, like leaders, institutions, and decisions. That way, people can place their personal experience inside a bigger shared narrative. Second, the affirmative mentions about top-down history is less understandable and less systematic, which is not necessarily true. Why? In many cases, concentrating on one specific actor actually allows for more organized analysis of events, policies, or historical changes. I believe top-down is 1,000 times more systematic and understandable than bottom-up because in top-down historiography, we only focused on specific historical actors and their influence to that tragedy or the history. Now, imagine only teaching bottom-up historiography. You'd have thousands of fragmented histories from different points of view of the ordinary people. Fragmentation means history is broken into separate pieces that no longer connect, like I said before. And when history doesn't connect, students don't see the bigger picture of that history. They see isolated pain, isolated struggles, isolated victories from bottom-down historiography. That could create confusion. How can young people, in this case students, learn lessons from the past if they can't even see how events links together? So without top-down historiography, it's just gonna create a mess or scattered histories, and that's gonna be hard to learn, right? So in here, why would we use bottom-down historiography if it's actually just going to create confusion and even misinformation? So that's why here I'm Rosanna Prayoga stand in opposition of this motion. So now we are moving to my main arguments why I strongly disagree about this motion. My argument is top-down provides lesson and predictability. If we learn top-down historiography, we could see the bigger picture of that history, like I mentioned before. Like why something happened, what caused this tragedy or event. Because in top-down historiography, we learn from specific historical actors who gave visible influence and impacts to that history. Before we go any further, let me ask a question. Why do we study history? Of course, we learn history to learn and to know what happened in the past. But more than that, history teaches us valuable lessons so that we can avoid repeating the same mistakes in the future. Studying historical events can teach us how decisions, actions, and conflicts have impacted people and societies. History also allows us to see patterns, to understand causes and consequences, and to think critically about the world around us. So, learning history isn't just memorizing dates or events. It's about understanding human experience and using those lessons to build a better future. Bottom-up histories are powerful emotionally, but they don't always explain why conflicts happened or how they were resolved. Top-down historiography, however, provides a clear framework for studying the decisions, institutions, and leadership choices that determined the trajectory of the nation. It gives the citizens a wider perspective, the reason why a tragedy happened, the policies or failures that caused it, and how the leaders reacted to solve or aggravate the situation. This cause and effects change. One learned permits societies to achieve predictability, to see the warning signs, to spot the destructive patterns, to learn the lessons, and to stop history from repeating itself. So top-down history is not just a reflection of the past, but a toolkit for future generations to build stability and unity. For example, in post-World War II Germany, for example, it was not only the pain of the average citizen, but the systematic rebuilding of institutions, the Marshall Plan, and the building of the democratic structure that prevents another conflict. This tells us that normal experiences are important, but they cannot be by themselves. It was the structural top-level decisions that reshaped the nation that really ensured peace. And this is the crux of the importance of top-down history in post-conflict states. It makes history a white book. It's not just what people felt, but what leaders and institutions did to alter the course of history. So, if we compare the two approaches, we can see the danger of bottom-up historiography. It breaks history into disconnected stories, leaving students confused and unable to see the bigger picture. And it's this very confusion that stops societies from learning lessons. Because if you don't see the connections of the events or the tragedy, you can't predict patterns, you can't identify warning signs, you can't identify what's going on, what could lead to that history. You can stop history from repeating itself if we focused on bottom-up historiography. And that's why top-down is so important. It does not erase the experiences of ordinary people. It places them within a distinct framework of choices, institutions, and leadership choices. That framework turns history from a jumble of memories into a coherent guidebook. What post-conflict states most need is that guidebook, a way to understand the past so as to build stability and unity. So that's why in here, I strongly disagree about this motion. Thank you very much.